All right, everyone. Picking up with project two. You can see here that I've worked a little bit further on this since the last time we spoke. You can see here that I've blocked in the basic colors here, okay, on the figures. Uh, and what you want to do, much like painting traditionally, I tend to start with the dark color first, and then start sort of blocking the layer colors on top of it. Now, after blocking in the figure color, you can see I've actually gone in. Sorry, my computer is a little slow today. I've gone in and started sort of putting a finish on some of these figures. Now, this is a lot easier to see without the pencils. Okay, so I've started with the main character here, and what I've been using is primarily just a regular paintbrush. You can see I've got a 7 pixel, okay, but it's soft. And what I'm actually using is a soft round pressure and opacity flow brush. Okay, what that does is um, it changes the opacity of the stroke. Um, it changes the opacity of the stroke and along with the pressure. Okay, so I'm able to go in here and sort of feather in some lighter strokes that give it a nice sort of painterly effect. That's how I did all the detail on the hair. That's only 2 colors in there. It's kind of an off-white and a very dark brown. But because I varied the pressure, it's kind of blended quite nicely. I'm still using the mixer brush quite a bit to kind of blend in the colors when I first start. You can see this is all very rough through here, and the same is true with like this figure here. Okay, now, so if I were to, let's say we want to start on this, I've got this character on a separate layer, you can see. And in this case, what I would do first is I would grab my mixer brush. Whoops, that's my history brush. Check the size. That looks pretty good. Maybe just a little bit bigger, considering how big this figure is. Okay. But I think what I'm going to do though is I'm going to take a color sample from this space right in here, which is kind of an off-white. I think I'll back it up with this shade in here. Okay, because that's going to affect what's in my brush. You've probably noticed if you use this brush before, you can have the loaded brush or a clean brush. So I'm going to start kind of smoothing the transition here and do this um, before I start adding a lot of detail or anything. Just going to move this stuff around. Now the colors that I've chosen here for this character are actually taken from a photo reference that I took. Okay. What's going on here is the blonde hair um, of this character is kind of coming through the out of the white the white of her face. So it's making for kind of an interesting sort of thing here. So there's a lot of yellows and golds. I'm just going to kind of soften these edges here, move this stuff around a bit, and then go back in and make a little more detail, in. Now you notice I didn't bother to change the color, even though I'm in the darker shade here. And that's because with the mixer brush, you can just kind of move stuff around. And you don't have to worry too much about too much contamination. So as you can see, a fairly nice darker area through there. Let's make a transition more through here. Something like that probably is pretty good. I haven't put in the lip color yet or anything like that. I'll use the regular brush for that. Now, speaking of the regular brush, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to just put black in my, just your basic black, and in my brush here. Now start kind of tracing over this here. Now, the nice thing about this pressure brush is that you can lightly pencil in and it'll be almost like a gray at first, which is kind of nice. Now, what I'm doing here, though, is I'm actually putting in kind of a heavy sort of a makeup look. So I want to draw that down a little bit. Let's go ahead and I'm going to grab a little bit of a orange color and kind of dab that in for the tear duct. I might as well do the other one while I'm at it. Now, as far as color is concerned, for the eyes, you don't want to go with like a stark white. That just doesn't really work that well. I'm going to take the pencils off for a minute and see where I'm at here. Okay. You can see there that's a little, see the pencils hide quite a lot. So let's go back in and put in a little more of the detail here. Whoops, wrong color. Load the black back in there. That was a little off. And I decided I didn't want to go the makeup style that was too reminiscent of Kiss or Alice Cooper, so let's do something relatively simple. Okay, and then let's see, eye color. Well, I'm going to go with make it a really dark blue. And you can see if I go lighter with my stroke, it becomes lighter. That's kind of a nice thing to be able to do. That's why I really kind of like this this kind of thing. There, you can see that's fairly light. And let's throw in a little black there. The pupil. And of course, we're going to need a little dab of white. Now, it's a little hard to see that, so there we go. Okay. Yeah, that's the thing. You really have to turn the pencils off after a bit to get the detail in there, to really be able to see what you're doing. At least that's been my experience anyway. So let's go ahead and turn the pencils off for a minute so we can see what we're doing. Let's put a little white in there. Switch back to our blue so we can actually see. Something like that. Now, while this is still off, I'm going to go ahead and let's see, we'll put in this color here. And go back to my mixer brush. There. I can kind of, once I have that off, I can kind of see better what I'm doing. Just kind of move this stuff around. Now, eventually, like I said, I will go and start putting in detail work with that, with a detail brush. But for now, I'm still just kind of moving stuff around, getting the, getting it about how I want. So we're gonna, like anything else, we're gonna have a light side, a shadow side. So like when it comes to like the real detail, I'll do that with an actual brush. All right, let's turn the pencils back on, see where we're at there. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and start putting in a little more detail in. I'm going to grab a, let's see. Actually going to go with a dark blue here. Turn that back off again. And using this brush here, I'm actually going to start putting in a little bit of dark detail there. Actually, yeah, let's go with a more of a black. Now I'm also going to, while I'm at it, add a little detail along through here while I'm thinking of it. Again, kind of hard to see through the pencils sometimes. So now let's do a little more work on this eye here. All right, so with this eye, let's see, let's go ahead and we'll put in a little more detail work here. Whoops. Last two strokes. Hit the wrong one. Now, what I'm actually sketching in here, if you remember in drawing one, if you took drawing one with me, when we did the human figure, we actually talked a bit about how little of the eye was actually white. So I'm penciling in some or painting in a little bit of white to the eye there, but we don't want very much because the lid actually makes a shadow. And actually, if you want to be a little more technical about it, there's also going to be a light side and a shadow side. So I'm just kind of darkening that up a little bit. And as a matter of fact, let's make this a little bit darker still. And just kind of dab in. Again, using the opacity brush is kind of nice because you can kind of adjust how much you you put in. by just your pressure. I want this to look like quite heavy eyeliner, so I'm putting in a little heavier line than I normally would. And if I don't like that, I can kind of move that in just a touch. Just kind of softening those lines just a little bit, moving them out just a touch. Move that around just a little bit so it's more like a little more natural. Whoop, there we go. Okay, all right, that's coming along. Now let's talk a little bit about the adding some highlights and stuff. Now in this case, what I would do, because there's this like white skin here. Well, first off, let's smooth this out. See, now that when you get close up, you can kind of see some things that you might have to fix, some little bitmappy edges and whatnot. So kind of take care of those. Smooth that out a little bit. So much like the other figure that I just showed you, the Dr. Nocturnal one, in this case, if I just go with like a straight white, switch that around, and have my regular brush, I can work in here and bring in some, feather in some nice highlights. And in this case, with this piece here, I want to leave in a lot of the strokes. I want to have a little bit of texture going on. I don't want to be quite as smooth as the last one that I did. And in this case here too, like, yeah, it looks like she's got, white skin, but it's not pure white. So there would be a little gleam on the nose and on the wing of the nose. Maybe a little bit along the eyelid. And notice how you can kind of just draw that in and have it lightly fade off, almost like a colored pencil or something. See if I press really hard and get a nice hard white line. See that? And then I can kind of sketch it in. Now that was a little bit of too much of a hard line, so let's go ahead and kind of smooth out the edge a little bit. But you get the idea. Okay. So actually what I'm going to do is, like the one edge, the darker edge, I'm going to blend that into the shade of the nose. There's a little smoother transition. There we go. Okay. Well, we're almost at 20 minutes, so I'm going to turn this off for a little bit. And when I get a little further along on this face, I'll pick this back up, okay? Talk to you in a few. Okay. Now you can see here, I put in a lot more detail work into this face. Okay. Um, Moved some tones around so it's more of a smooth transition from the light to the dark. I still need to add a little more highlight along here, which I'll do with a brush and just basic white. So just kind of right along this side here, sketch in a little bit more. Now, what I'm going to do, what I've done along here is I'm having the highlights and the shadows kind of follow the brow line. You know, it's a fake brow, of course. It's like done with a makeup or something. Um, you know, 'cause it's kind of drawn in. I almost had the eye, a little cat's eye thing, kind of go up and point toward that. Actually, I need to, while I'm at it, I need to go ahead and go in here with and kind of buffet this up a little bit. It got a little bit messed up when I was sketching that, when I was moving some of this stuff around and getting this tone right through here. And you can see here I need to add a little bit more of that kind of makeup kind of stuff there too. Keep that looking like makeup. Now, one thing I also need to do here is I use the same color on either side, which is, of course, wrong. It's the base color. So what I want to do, you know, you get a light side and a shadow side. You need to make that a bit darker so it looks right. So right now it's a little too light, so I'm going to go in and fill it in with a darker tone of red right there so it reads right. And then let's go ahead and get a darker tone there. Not quite as dark as the other. And I'm also going to kind of clean that up a little bit along there too. Now, one thing I'm also going to do here is I'm going to put on a little bit of white. So there's, there we go, a little bit of a gleam from a reflective light there. And also, while I'm at it, put in just a little bit darker along there. So it makes the eye look like there's actually some dimensionality to it. The same way we did over here. And a lot of times people don't remember to do things like that with the eyes. It makes them look kind of strange. See, so now when I come back out of it, see there's reflective light over here coming through the hair. There might be a little bit on this eye too. Okay, it's those little touches like that that really can put your work over the top. Same way I've got a little reflective light on the back side of the nose. And I can put a little bit more in there if I want, just a touch along the edge, something like that. And again, using the opacity and pressure brush, I can control how much I put in. Okay, that might be a little bit too much, but actually I can go in with once I have that in there, I can go in with a fairly small mixer brush and just kind of move it around a little bit. Actually, let's load a little of this tone here and there and tone that down just a touch. But we still have that highlight in there, that little gleam. There, see? And that's what I wanted to try and capture right there. You can kind of put in some brush strokes, you can soften them. In this case, you know, this is makeup, so it's going to be a little on the shiny side probably. Um, I've had my wife actually make herself up something like this for reference in the past. Uh, to kind of set this up, and so I know how this stuff kind of works, how it looks optically. All right, so there we go. So yeah, same kind of thing here. I still need to fill in the teeth there and that sort of thing. But this face is, well, let's see if it's on the same quality level as this face here, and I think it is. Okay, so yeah, that's the look for this particular brush if you want to try it out. This is your in Photoshop general brushes. You got this folder here, and you've got your soft round and hard round. Those are the first ones that most people always use. They're almost like default. And then you've got group one, and this is the, like I said, soft round, pressure, opacity, and flow brush. I'm getting some really good quality with this. I'm really happy with it so far. It's a nice throwback to that Logan's Run thing that I had showed you guys earlier. I've got a reference photo too that for this thing right here, this is going to be the disco ball. So I drew that from a reference. I had the dark in there first. I'll have to put in quite a bit of work to get that going. But there we go. That's how you use this particular brush to put in some nice detail and get a more clean line. This is a more realistic style than the last one that I was using. That one was fairly cartoony. So I still need to work through her hair. Again, the different tones in the hair came from a photo reference, but I need to smooth all those out and make it actually look like hair. I've got a photo reference also of a studded choker that this character will be wearing. So I need to kind of reference that and get some color swatches from it and stuff. But generally speaking, I think I'm a pretty good place so far. Now, the nice thing about this too is if I decide that, let's say later on I decide that this character's head needs to be bigger, because everything is all on separate layers, I can do a free transform and something like that if I wanted to. And that's the nice thing about having all of your figures on different layers. You can move them around and adjust the composition if you need to. Now, I don't really necessarily want to do that, so I will pop that back where it was. But it's good to know you can do that. All right. Okay, I'll talk to you guys later.